Greetings, y'all. Welcome to another video. Today, we are going to be talking about something that probably a million of you have already talked about. I'm late to the party as usual. These are albums I hate by bands that I love. And I don't like using the word hate. You know, it looks good on the little title to get people to click on the video and all, but it's a little bit too strong of a word, I think. These are more albums that were disappointing. You know, I probably was a little bit excited and anticipated them coming out, and when I finally got them, they were a bit of a letdown. So that pretty much covers it, right? So you're following along, everybody. You're following along. You're playing at home. You understand the rules of the game. Okay, great. Here we go. 1993, Billy Idol, Cyberpunk. This came out after his big successful album Charmed Life. I think there was some anticipation for this, and I liked Charmed Life quite a bit and was excited to pick this up. The first single, Shock to the System, I liked. I still think it's a pretty good song, so I was excited to get this. Went out and picked it up, if not the day it came out, the week it came out, and it's just no good. I mean, just none of the songs really are anything interesting. I mean, he had this whole concept, you know, tied to cyberpunk and graphic novels and maybe the early stages of, you know, the web. And there was even like a package of this that came with like a computer disk that maybe had some sort of forums on it or something. I don't remember. But yeah, it's just really disappointing. There's just really nothing to like latch onto here. The songs are just very uninspired to me. You know, perhaps if they were better, we'd maybe be thinking of this album as being ahead of its time, but it's not. It's not a good album. And it kind of put a halt to his career for a while. I mean, he kind of didn't really record another album for a long time. But yeah, it's disappointing. Cyberpunk, no good. This is an album 2022 by a band that I really love, and maybe it wasn't that big of a surprise that this ended up not being something that I was that crazy about. This is Sahara Hot Nights and their album Love in Times of Low Expectations. Low Expectations. I love this band, seen them live a bunch of times, have all their stuff. They started out as kind of like a punk band, and gradually their music sort of shifted and changed, which each album kind of getting a little bit more towards like more of a pop sound, you know, not even pop punk, just like pop, top 40, you know, that kind of stuff. And they kind of put out their last album, I guess, in 2012 and kind of took a hiatus, although it almost felt like maybe the band was done. And then this, out of nowhere, they released this 10 years later, and it kind of picks up where they left off. It's this kind of like really mellow, almost adult contemporary sound to it. It's just not my thing, you know. I mean, I love this band when they're playing guitars and kind of faster tempo tunes and stuff, and that's not what this is. And again, like I said, judging by where the band had kind of left off, it wasn't a big surprise that the songs were that way on here, so it wasn't a big shock, but disappointing nonetheless, because I really love that band. Another band I was a big fan of, and then in like the 90s or later 90s, I started losing interest, and that's Simple Minds. And this is their album from, I think, 2003, called Neapolis. And I love their 80s stuff. Early 90s I like as well. But by the time this came out, I kind of hadn't really paid much attention to Simple Minds anymore. And I was listening to a podcast not that long ago, only maybe 3 or 4 years ago or something, and they talked about this album, and they maybe played a clip of one of the songs, and I was like, you know what, let me give it a try. So I found it on eBay, got it, and it's just nothing that interesting. And I just find a lot of it's just a little bloated and just, I don't know. I miss the stuff they had done earlier in the 80s, that kind of music, you know, and this just feels like, you know, just not my thing. I'm just really disappointed with that one. Another one, similar to Billy Idol. This is following up an album I really liked, and then this comes out. This is The Strokes, Come Down Machine. This followed their album from, I think, 2012 called Angles, which, you know, the band had kind of taken a bit of a break, and it almost felt like maybe they called it a day. and they put out Angles in 2012. And from what I remember, it kind of came out of nowhere. And I really liked that album. It was strong, the great songs on it. You know, if you were a fan of the Strokes, it seemed like it was right in what you'd want to hear from them. And then they quickly followed it up a year later with this album. And this album is just a bore, no hooks, no catchy songs on it. It's just kind of a mess. It almost feels a little bit like the songs weren't ready to serve to the public. You know, they needed more work on them. And yeah, just really disappointed with this one as well. And then this is going to be no shocker, because anybody who like on YouTube ranks this band's album, if they don't have this at the bottom, they're crazy. This is Van Halen 3 from 1998. This album is, like I talked about the other one being maybe Simple Minds being bloated. These songs are bloated. They just aren't memorable. You know, I mean, this is a band that knew how to write a good, catchy, like hard rock pop song, and there's really like nothing on here that's worthwhile. I mean, the first single, Without You, it's okay, it's not bad, but even that is a little bit of a mess. And I mean, this album perfectly demonstrates why Edward Van Halen, as talented and as creative as he was, he needed that other person to kind of help him, you know, form this stuff into the songs that we want to hear, you know. And so, yeah, just really disappointed with this one. And then another one that I think nobody will disagree with me about, The Who, Endless Wire. This is obviously coming out years and years and years after their last studio album. I mean, I don't think anybody expected The Who to even record another studio album after It's Hard. And years and years go by, we get this. John Entwistle passed away. It's just Roger and Pete. It's got another stab at another rock opera, another stab at trying to make sense of Pete Townshend's Lifehouse idea, and it's just missing those songs that are memorable, or hooks or choruses or whatever. And there's just nothing on here. I mean, I waited a long time because I heard all the horror stories about this album, and it took me a while to actually pick it up. And when I did, you know, it was as disappointing as I expected to be. But yeah, just a not a good record. And their follow-up to this that came out a long time after that, like 13 or some odd years later, that's just called Who, they put out in 2019. I like that one. It's just some songs. I know a lot of Who fans are kind of divided on that as well, but I like it. I mean, at least half of it I really like and just kind of enjoyed. So, I mean, you know, this was just a big old mess. Next up, from 1985, I'm not a musician. I'm not like an audiophile person. I can't really, as you can tell, as I'm blabbing on, I can't really dissect songs necessarily, and maybe, you know, explain as to why I don't like something specifically or whatever. But this is a case where it all comes down to the producer, really. X had released 4 records produced by Ray Manzarek. Not like a commercial success, but critically and fans really liked their albums and everything. But Elektra, the label, is a little disappointed because we need some sales. The records aren't selling. So they decide to make a change. They say, let's get rid of the producer, bring someone else in. They bring in this guy who at the time was really popular with like hair metal, heavy metal, hair metal stuff, and match him with X, which just seemed mind-boggling. I don't know what they're thinking there. And the minute you put this on, you can hear it. You can hear that production, that hair metal kind of sound. And it's just like, it doesn't blend with X, you know, at all. And the band, I know, is not a fan of this album at all. And I mean, it's just so apparent. I mean, all you have to do is put this in for 5 seconds and you'll just be like, what the hell is this? Yeah, just not a good album at all. And then last, 2022, we get Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Cool It Down. I love the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Much like a couple of the artists I talked about, their sound kind of changed with each album a little bit. You know, by their last studio album, they kind of were bringing in more like synth and electronica sounds and everything. But I still kind of was on board. I still liked it, you know, and I really couldn't wait to pick up this album when it came out, and just really disappointing. It just, I'm cool with the electronica and the synths and everything, but I do miss Nick Zinner's guitar. I mean, it's a crucial element to their sound, I think, and it's really missing on this. It's only 8 tracks. There's one song that I do kind of like, but I remember just putting this on and listening to it and just like getting through the whole thing and going like, I didn't care about any of that, and having to listen to it again and again and again, and it just still isn't clicking. It just, just really disappointing. I'm bummed out how this album came out, because I was really looking forward to it. But that's all my selections. Let me know the albums that you are not a fan of the bands that you are a big fan of. Blah, blah, blah. I can't speak, whatever. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Look forward to hearing some comments from you, some of your suggestions, and we'll see you the next time. Later on.